anybody needs this for Braden, just let me know. I want to thank Dr. Postal, Vince, for allowing me to be your head coach. This is an awesome and exciting day for me and my family, and it's an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm not going to make a lot of promises today. The one thing I'll promise is you're going to get my best, my very best. Standing here before you, representing a school that's had 2 permanent head basketball coaches since 1971. I don't take that lightly. You have 2 Hall of Fame coaches, multiple Final Fours, multiple national championships, multiple All-Americans. Some are here today, and I appreciate that. For Coach Crum to be here, I got to share a funny story with Coach Crum, about Coach Crum. I don't know how funny you'll think this is after I tell the story. My first year in college basketball as a director of basketball operations was at Xavier, and my very first road trip was the Great Alaskan Shootout in 1999. And we played Louisville in the first round of the Great Alaskan Shootout. And during that time, and they still do it today, you guys did it, the experimental rules. So I'm the director of basketball operations, and one of the experimental rules that they wanted to see if it worked or not was when you reached the 7th foul and your team was the one that got fouled, you could elect to take the basketball out on the side versus having to shoot the free throws. So with about 30 seconds left, and I apologize, I know that you know your history probably a heck of a lot better than I do, but about 30 seconds to go in the game. Xavier gets fouled and we're up 2 points. I looked at Coach Prosser, God rest his soul. Coach, we should take the ball out of bounds. So we took the ball out of bounds. Coach Crum sort of looked down at our bench. Ball got inbounded, Louisville fouled again. 24 seconds left on the game clock. Coach Prosser, we should inbound the ball again and not shoot the free throws. We did that 7 straight times. The game ended with us never shooting free throws. Coach Crum going to the post-game press conference and saying, if that experimental rule ever comes into play, well, you can probably guess the rest. Coach, I apologize for us beating you that day. And obviously, Coach Pitino, Hall of Fame coach as well. He's been awesome to me. He certainly implemented a style all unique. He's one of the best to ever coach both the college and the pro game. And I understand that I have big shoes to fill. And as I said before, I'm going to do my best. I want to thank the community of Xavier for believing in me in 2009, specifically Father Graham, our president, Mike Babinski, who's now Purdue's athletic director, who had the guts to hire me, and then Greg Christopher, the AD that I just left, who kept me around. I told my players, it's not easy. 24 hours ago, I was in a locker room with a lot of tears, both from the players that I coached and from the guys standing before you. To leave a situation that I gave my heart, gave 2 ACLs, a patella tendon, a lot of memories. To come to Louisville, obviously this place has to be special to me, and it is. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize David Padgett. I talked to David earlier this morning, and I can't imagine the yeoman's task that he had to face just days before the season started to keep that group, this group, together. And maybe they didn't experience the results necessarily that they wanted to or they expected to at the beginning of the year, but he did it with class, he did it with integrity, and he did it with putting players first. To our current players, I told these guys about a half hour ago, and I think a couple of them will probably start shaking their heads. I recruited about half of them. And if they wouldn't come to me at Xavier, I told him, you're stuck with me, I'm just going to come to you. There will be no, well, those are Patino's guys versus Mack guys. I chose this group. You guys are my guys. I'm going to work hard every single day to make you better, to make us better, to make Louisville basketball better. Earlier on, I talked to him about meeting a high standard. And I see my job as the head coach of keeping that standard high and not lowering the standard when it's not met. It's not going to be easy. I want our team and our players to be tough, together, and unbreakable. To the former players here at Louisville, this is your program. You built it. I know what that's like. I did the same thing, although my brick would probably be a lot smaller, up the road at Xavier. I want each of you to know there are no different eras. This is Louisville basketball, and you are a big part and are the part in making it what it is today. From afar, I admired so many of you over the years. I hate recognizing individuals because I'm going to leave some out. But I will recognize one guy who I know is not here because I'd probably see him above the crowd. Man, what really started to turn me on when I was a kid about Louisville basketball was never nervous Purvis. Dr. Duncanstein, I better stop because there's a lot of guys in this room. I want you guys all to know that you're always welcome. You don't need an invitation because that's what this is. To stop in a practice, to come to a game. At some point, when my wife picks out our house, you'll all be welcome over there as well. To the Louisville fans, Card Nation, and all the people in this community that have supported this program for so many years, I know these past few months have been unbelievably difficult. They say the darkest clouds elicit the brightest lightning bolts. That lightning bolt is coming. It's not me, it's those guys. It's time to turn the page and start building something special once again. I urge you, fill the young. Give these guys a chance. Let's get this place rocking. I want you to take pride in your city and your team. And again, my promise won't come in wins, and it won't come in banners. It'll come in the sense that I will work my ass off every single day to make you proud of Louisville basketball. I want to thank a few people that I brought with me. You know, coaching at times can make you an absentee husband and a absentee dad at times. You'll see me, I try to blend. I don't try to balance. I try to blend my family life with my professional life. First to Christy. Did you guys know she's from Louisville? My rock, my best friend. Woof. She bleeds cardinal red. I want you to know that's not the reason I took the job. Thanks, babe. To my girls, Lainey, my oldest. You want to stand up real quick, Bugs? I call her Lainey Bug. You can sit down, Lainey. I want you guys to know she's going to cry every game we lose. And when you're getting into your teen years with your daughter, you don't want them crying, so trust me. Let's not lose. She's invested. I mean, we walked off the floor at Xavier the other day against a very good Florida State team, maybe the toughest loss I've ever had with a team that I was so invested in. And she couldn't stop crying, you know, well after our guys quit crying in the locker room. And that's how our family rolls. Haley, you want to stand up? This is my crazy, competitive, heart of gold, middle child. Hale, you can, okay. She'll be the one that's dancing at games and loving Louisville basketball like we all will. Is Braden around? I told our guys, Braden, get ready. I don't think Louisville is ready for Braden Mack. If the band director is here, Braden will be super excited because every game I watch on my computer when I'm watching film at night, he comes over, he starts staring at my computer screen, and he said, Daddy, where are the instruments? So, Braden, I think they have a band here at Louisville. My mom and dad, who are here as well, Tom and Bonnie, forever grateful for their love and support. Just like a lot of you that played youth sports, my dad was my coach, gave me a lot of life lessons that had nothing to do with X's and O's. One of the lessons I'll never forget, and so I was a soccer player. It wasn't a very good one, but I was a soccer player. And we had played a particular team and tied, and the other team was terrible. I apologize. You know, Grossbeck, they were terrible. We tied the game, and as the final seconds are being counted down in my head because you had the guys on the side going, 2 minutes, 1 minute. I knew that the game was going to end in a tie, and just as it ended in a tie, I picked up the ball. Teams were going to shake hands, and I punted it as hard as I could up in the air. And before the ball landed, my dad had grabbed the back of my arm and very forcefully said, "Get in the car, bub." He taught me a lot about sportsmanship, playing to win, shaking the other guy's hand after the game when you don't. Thank you. And then my wife's parents, Danny and Debbie, who have been unbelievable supporters of mine. They've done everything that they can to be at every one of their games. I've made their commute a little bit easier rather than coming to the Cintas. And just for the record, they don't have season tickets to Louisville basketball. I want you to know a little bit of who I am and why I'm here. But I want to also make it very clear, and I told our players, it's not about me. It won't be about me. It's about them. When I went with Skip Prosser to Wake Forest, we had Chris Paul. We were the #1 team in the country. And after my 3rd year as an assistant coach at Wake Forest, I left the ACC and I went back to Xavier, and I took a pay cut. I went from Wake Forest as a 3rd assistant to Xavier as an assistant, and I took a pay cut. And there were a lot of people, a lot of colleagues of mine that said, man, he's crazy. Why would you leave what was arguably the #1 preseason team in the country to go back to Xavier? But I did it for different reasons, and I did it because I followed my heart. When I went back to Xavier 5 years later, I was named the head coach at my alma mater. It's been an awesome ride for 9 years. Lots of head coaching jobs over those 9 years have presented themselves. And if I'd listed those out, and some were very, very public at times, there were a lot of people that said, why wouldn't he go there? He's crazy. So when people say, why Louisville? He's crazy. I'm never afraid of a challenge. I'm never afraid of a challenge. I faced so much adversity during my playing years. I shared a little bit with these guys. Started both years at the University of Evansville. I left, I transferred, I sat out that tough year that Stephen Enoch sat out this year where you practice with the team. You don't get to wear a uniform, you have to sit out. And then my first exhibition game, in the first year I'm eligible at Xavier, I blow out my left knee, 8 seconds into the first exhibition game. So I sat out the entire year, 2 years in a row. So I'm getting cited for my 5th and final year, rehabbing like a son of a gun. And in the summer league, after I got released, I tore my other ACL. And that personal experience was maybe the toughest I ever had to go through, both as a player and as a person. And I didn't know it then, but I know it now. I'm not afraid of adversity. It's going to hit. It's how you handle it. I learned during that time, thankfully, because Coach Prosser gave me a book after my 2nd ACL, that tough times don't last, tough people do. and I'm going to carry that with me for the rest of my life. I told these guys here, this is my final stop. You'll never see Coach Mack coach at another university or an NBA team, high school team. I mean, for a second there with the board not getting everything in check, I thought I was going to have to be Mike Sabo's assistant at Trinity. But as I stand before you as your head coach, I can't wait to get started with these guys. It's going to be a players first program. And with that, I'll take any questions that you have for me.
Again, if you'll let us get a microphone to you. Right up front, Jody.
Chris, how difficult and when did you know you were going to do this?
I think anytime you make a life decision, it's difficult. I will tell you that my decision making is always comes from my heart. And everybody makes decisions in life, be it small ones or big ones, in different ways. And what works for different people doesn't always work for others. If I went out and shopped for a car, I'm going to one lot. I'm looking at the car, that's what I'm getting, and I don't care what the salesman has to say. I just know. It's not worth my time to go to another lot, compare prices. And so with this, it was a very, very tough decision, but inside, I knew it was the right decision, and I made it.
When you look at the program, just some general thoughts about what you see, some of the challenges short-term and medium-term ahead in terms of reversing some of the negative traction and some of the positive traction that's occurred as well.
Yeah, it's not my job to be the guy that looks backward. I wasn't here when a lot of the things that transpired have been written about, and I wouldn't have come here if I didn't believe this place can shine once again. A lot of people have taken the time to write all the different stories, and I'm not naive enough to think that won't continue, but my job isn't to look backward, it's to look forward, and I'm excited about that. If I felt it was too overwhelming to do so, then I wouldn't have come.
Chris, has Coach Pitino reached out to you at all, and did that alleviate any concerns?
I reached out to Coach. You know, I've talked to him twice. He's been awesome. He had nothing but great things to say about the city of Louisville, Louisville basketball, the players that he recruited here, and his support of me.
Tell me about this building. You've been in here before, maybe not for a game, but can you tell us about that experience?
You can probably tell me a lot more about the building. You know, I was here for the Eric Church concert. It's a pretty good time. And I'll tell a story here. So my brother-in-law, Danny, I'm always getting him tickets to Xavier games. And every time he'd come to Xavier games, he's in the front row. You know, he's like 3 or 4, places away. Sometimes we have a suite. Whatever Danny needs, he gets. So he hits me and says he wants to return the favor. He said, I'm buying you some Eric Church tickets. I was like, that would be awesome. I got here, and we were in section 497. I couldn't tell if it was country music or rap music. But this building is special. The team in it is more special. And my hope is that next December, next November, this place is rocking.
What can the Cardinal fans expect to see from a Chris Mack coach team?
Well, I think if you ask people around the country that follow college basketball, I would like to think they think teams are tough, both physically and mentally. And as I said before, I do want our team to be tough, together, and unbreakable. And over time, they'll learn our system. They'll learn our terminology. They'll learn our personalities. And by the way, us coaches will do the exact same for our players. But I think, just to sort of put it in a nutshell, I would say tough, together, and unbreakable is how I want our team to be viewed. I can hear you.
Okay. Chris, during your time at Xavier, it seemed like you really reached out to the fan base and wanted to kind of be visible with you and your family. during the times that this fan base has faced in the last 6 months, last couple of years, how important is that for you guys to be able to do this moving forward?
I'm just going to be me. I don't know any other way. I know that the spotlight is brighter. I know the attention comes from more people. I want the attention to be on our players, but I'm not going to lose who I am because I have to be genuine in order to lead these guys. And so somebody said the other day to me, you're going to a place, a lot of negative connotation, and you know, how are you going to? I just looked at him and said, hey, listen, I'm going to be me. I'm not going to post on Twitter any more than I did before. I'm not going to become more elusive. After games, I'm going to go out to eat. I know you think I'm crazy. I'm going to do it. And that's the only way I know how. I'm going to be me.
Coach, how much about the FBI situation were you told in the interview process, and did that deter you at all?
I was told enough, but I'd also say that everybody in here, along with everybody in the entire country, doesn't have their hands around what is going to happen. You know, a lot of people, a lot of programs have been touched, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But if it were a situation that would have scared me off, then I would have said something to Vince. He was very open, and he was very forthright in his dealings with both the NCAA and what happened with the FBI. And again, we'll deal with it, whatever comes our way, and we won't be afraid of that.
Chris, obviously there hasn't been much time at this point yet, but how much do you know about the team that you're inheriting?
Well, I know a lot. You know, I've tried to, over the last 3 or 4 days, watch as much film as I can. A company called Synergy, and you can watch anything you want. You know, I recruited a lot of these guys out of high school. Certainly how you play in high school, it's a tougher job and tougher responsibility at the college level. But I know a lot, and I'm certainly going to not claim to know everything or have all the answers, but that's what a working relationship's about. My job is to push these guys and find out what their dreams and goals are and try to get them to that. And I want them to know what my dreams and goals are, which is why I came to the University of Louisville.
Coach Mack, I was actually on the court in '99, and I missed the steal when you call that play. So I appreciate the coaching staff. How close are you to having a full staff right now?
I think there's a little bit of things that have to be played out a little bit back at Xavier. You know, I brought with me today Luke Murray and Mike Pegues, who I fully intend to bring on as full-time assistants here. They're in the back of the room. You know, those guys have been with me every step of the way. Travis Steele, who's been my associate head coach at Xavier for the last 9 seasons, is a candidate to replace me at Xavier. And, you know, I think he would do an incredible job at Xavier. So whether Trav ultimately ends up being the head coach at Xavier, then that would obviously have some, you know, ramifications for my staff. You know, certain support staff I'm going to talk to that have worked here and represented Louisville the right way over the last couple of years, or however long some of these guys have been here, years and years. But I'm going to do them right, as will Vince. But ultimately, I have to be comfortable, just like any CEO would, and that's what you are when you're a head basketball coach in 2018. Be very comfortable with the people that represent me, that work with me, work with our players, and represent you all as the University of Louisville.
Hope to accomplish? What do you hope to accomplish your first few weeks on the job?
Wow, that's a good question. A lot. You know, the first thing that we're going to do is work to establish as good of a relationship as we can with our players. You know, we're going to set up individual meetings starting next week. I'm going to be on the phone with a lot of those guys, as will my staff. Talk to their parents, make sure that the current roster feels good about our vision for the program. And it may not match up. I told those guys, I'm not going to lower our standard, but if they want to be a part of it, I certainly want them to be a part of it. Why they chose Louisville is probably the exact same reason I chose Louisville, outside of Coach Pitino. So Along with that, obviously hiring a staff, a coaching staff, a support staff. Those will be my two main focuses as we move not only over the next couple weeks, but over the next few months.
Coach, you seem to genuinely enjoy the rivalry process there in Cincinnati and Xavier. What is it? What comes to mind when you think of stepping into that Louisville-Kentucky rivalry, and also, of course, the rivalries with other teams in the ACC?
Yeah, I can't wait. You know, there's something about those type of games that get your juices flowing. And, you know, I know maybe people in this city can't appreciate the Cincinnati-Xavier rivalry. Well, I see some of my local media from Cincinnati. The schools are separated by 2.5, 3 miles. And I've had a history of some incredible games and some incredible battles. And I love being a part of that, both as a player and as a coach. And I'm not naive enough to think that the UK-Louisville game isn't one of the best in the entire country. All eyes, usually right around Christmas time. I'm usually sitting in my in-laws' house over in Shepherdsville watching the game because it's during our Christmas break. I'm excited about it. But our season won't be one game, but you can sure as bet we're going to be ready to go next year here at the Yum.
Coach, you were talking about your early weeks on the job. How does being here kind of change your recruiting approach in terms of the type of players that you go after, and you know, just how much broader is it now?
Well, we went after a lot of the guys that ended up here, so I don't know how much the profile will change in terms of the type of player, the type of student athlete that we want here at Louisville. Just think we'll be able to get a few more of them than maybe we have in past years. You know, I want guys that are very versatile. I want players that are competitive, tough, and embody some of the characteristics I talked about before that I want our team to resemble. But, you know, I'm not naive. You know, it's going to take a special person, a special family to believe in this place, just like I did. And I think there'll be a lot of families and student athletes, prospective student athletes out there that will.
Hi, Coach. Jason Wired, Vice President of the Villain Student Section. Coach, what is your vision for our student section moving forward? And do you have any plans to work with students here to further build our culture?
Absolutely. You know, I'd be foolish, Jason, to sort of give you a plan in my first hour on the job. But it's their team. They go to the University of Louisville. They're going to remember those 4 years, for some of them 5, for a few of them 6. They're going to remember that, their time, you know, coming over to the Yum, rooting for their Cardinals. And so I want it to be memorable. I want them to, you know, make that 10-minute journey. I want them to pack the Yum. I want them to feel a special sense of pride about their university. And that's what we're going to work every single day to do. And whether I have to storm dorms or, you know, incite pep rallies, I'm not scared to do that type of stuff.
How long have you thought about being the Louisville basketball coach? And then in the past week, when did it kind of click for you to take this job?
When I was asked. You know, I've always had a fondness for Louisville basketball. I don't think that's a secret. But at the same time, you know, my heart's been at Xavier ever since I was a player. And so I wasn't auditioning or reaching out for other jobs. I never would do that. You know, but when the opportunity came, it was one I felt like I couldn't pass up.
Chris, in years past, have you ever been contacted about this job before? And then my second question is, where did that fondness for this program come from?
Well, no, because the job wasn't open. I didn't, you know, I think Coach Crum retired, you know, right around the beginning of 2000s and wasn't even coaching then. So, I mean, I said it. You know, I mean, I'm watching those teams. You know, I had the opportunity as a senior in college to lose a heartbreaker at Freedom Hall. Should have got you then too, Coach. We had Brian Grant and Aaron Williams, and the support, the arena, which obviously is a different arena now. The names of the past, whether it's, you know, Milt Wagner, DeJuan Wheat, I can go on and on. Clifford Rozier. I mean, you know, it's It's one of the best, Charlie Tyree. It's a black and white TV at that time, Vince. I just have always had a fondness for Louisville basketball. You know, I appreciate good basketball. It's not that I don't have a fondness for other programs. And then obviously when Christy and I got married and our wedding was here and our reception was over in New Albany, you know, I got to know the place even more. And so I've always felt really comfortable. And when I was asked to be the head coach at Louisville, it was an opportunity I couldn't turn down.
Chris, you have recruited the state of Kentucky, specifically this area, fairly well at Xavier. Talk about trying not to let kids get out of the state and how you will approach that. And then the second question, have you and the girls worked on any new rap moves?
Easy, Jody. 502 crew. You know, we always want to start, you know, within our own city. You know, we always want to be able to, you know, recruit high school players in the area that bleed cardinal red. You know, from that point on, you know, we try to recruit in our breadbasket, you know, which is a 5-hour drive. You know, the NCAA rules, the way they are, when a high school prospect is a freshman or sophomore, you can't pay for his flight. You know, the ability to get to California and see a kid and come back there are a lot of schools between, you know, California and here. So we want to be as good as we can in our breadbasket, establish relationships early with the student athlete and their folks and their support people, get them to a game at the Yum, and then as time goes on, be able to reel them in and make them a part of this thing. But we're always going to start with our home base first. City of Louisville, you obviously have Indianapolis, Cincinnati, or some major cities within an hour and a half, and then we'll just keep branching out. And I recognize Louisville has an awesome national brand, and maybe it needs to be polished right about now, and we're not afraid to do that. But we're going to hit some areas that we've hit when I was the head coach at Xavier with my staff who has their footprint in certain areas that they grew up in.
You made reference to dark clouds over here, Chris. Hovering over this program, the same could probably be said of the sport itself, college basketball. What kind of reforms do you want to see come out of Condoleezza Rice's commission, and what level of corruption do you see in this sport?
Yeah, it's well, that's a question I can answer for a long, long time. You know, I don't know, Tim, if I'm smart enough to articulate all the things that, and also have the ability to follow through with the things that maybe need to be changed. You know, I talked to my parents weeks ago about how Europe does it, club teams, and you don't really necessarily tie education with athletics, but you know, we're way beyond that point. And so I don't have a great answer for you. I do think there has to be some type of representation for athletes earlier on, because sometimes as players get to our level, you know, they've been dealing with agents and talking to agents since they were 12 and 13 years old. And I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I think that would be a start.
Coach, how vital was it for you to have a full-time AD, whether it be Vince or somebody else? Now it's Vince, full-time AD, not an interim athletic director. How big of a deal was that for you?
I mean, it's huge. You know, nobody wants to go to a place that's on, you know, a shaky foundation. And, you know, spending the time that I did with Vince on Saturday, which, by the way, was a long time. He said 3 or 4 hours, and that turned into 8 or 9. Yeah, it was worth it. You know, you promised that I'd make Haley's volleyball match, so I got to the last one. But, you know, I just, I don't know, I feel like this place is special, and you need that stability, and I have it with Vince, and you know, he's awfully smart. He hasn't necessarily worked in athletics, but also I think, you know, smart people understand maybe where they have to grow as well, and our vision was the same. He bleeds cardinal red, I know that. He has a love for this place, the community, and the university, and that's what you want. You know, you want synergy with the guy that you're going to be going to battle with every single day, and I have that with Vince.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. You played for Jim Cruz, Pete Gillen. You coached with Skip Prosser, Sean Miller. Who's the guy, if you're making a decision, who's the guy you think, like, what would he do here?
All of them. I mean, I think you're the experiences of everybody that you played for, that you coached with. And I think, a lot of times head coaches, they tend to talk to other head coaches around the country. Hey, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? I like to lean on my staff because nobody understands truly the dynamic of the team that you're dealing with more than the assistant coaches and the staff that you have in place than them. I could ask them, I could ask a fellow head coach, hey, what would be best for Jordan Nwara? How does he know? He's never coached him. He's never, he doesn't know what his deficiencies are, what his strengths are, what his personality are. So I want to make sure that the people that I lean on every single day are the people that I coach with. That doesn't mean I don't have influences, but when it comes to advice and talking things over, I try to lean on my own people.
Okay, that'll wrap it up. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Thank you.